Panthers pregame show with Jason Martinez on 97.5 Bennett.
The month of March as they'll head out on the road coming up this week. Head to Detroit, 5-game road trip on the horizon. It's the first home game without number 28, Claude Giroux, as the captain of the Philadelphia Flyers, forging a new path now as the Flyers get set to take on the Islanders. And matinee hockey here today. And, we're going to see a new face. Owen Tippett in the lineup today, Brian.
Yeah, it's our first look at the post-trade. It's not really the post-deadline yet, but the first piece of the deadline action has happened, obviously. And our first look at Owen Tippett and our first look at the team in person, without Claude Giroux for good. He's been out of a handful of games over the last couple of years, all due to COVID, but. We have not seen many games in the last 10 seasons without 28 in the lineup. So that's going to start today. Owen Tippett is, he's been playing in the American Hockey League. He's going to come up here. He's going to really get a fresh start. He's going to be on the line, I believe, with Frost and Lindblom. Is that what
correct?
We're
Yep.
So we're going to get a good look at that. Pretty quick here, and it's just the first of many. There's going to be other things coming at us too. I think just with. Maybe some college prospects coming in, maybe even some college free agents. Who knows? Again today, Justin Braun will be held out of the lineup just for what they call now asset management. That's the current term. Yeah, exactly. It's the popular phrase right now for guys that you're not going to play because you're going to trade them. So we'll see if that brings anything. But this will be the last game before the deadline. So, obviously it's been quite a last 72 hours around this team. And we still have another 36 hours or so to go between now and 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. There's only 24, so it feels longer than that. But, we'll see what happens between now and the start of the road trip.
Yeah, and naturally social media is ablaze, right? After the deal. The word I used on the podcast with Bill Meltzer was underwhelmed, but I wasn't expecting to be overwhelmed because you're trading a 34-year-old rental that could be there just a couple of months for the Florida Panthers. And, Claude Giroux had a full no-move clause, and he could determine where he wanted to go. That limits a GM's ability to drive up the price of acquisition by getting multiple teams involved. And that was at play here. And it's not like Chuck Fletcher put it out there that he only wanted to go to Florida. Everybody knew that in the league and in circles, and Bill Zito knew that. And when you know that, you're not going to, leverage against yourself. And I think something people need to remember is that if Chuck Fletcher says to Bill Zito, well, I got this offer from Joe Sakic, right? Whoever. And Bill Zito picks up the phone and calls Joe Sakic and goes, hey, Chuck's telling me you're offering this, and Joe Sakic goes, I've offered nothing of the sort. I haven't put an offer in. Then you can't do business that way because GM, you can't. Right. They're not. Chuck Fletcher can't block him from talking to the other GMs.
Let's put it this way. Again, I tell this story with no confirmation whatsoever, but the word on the street at the time that Paul Holmgren became team president and Ron Hextall became general manager was that Holmgren was having difficulty dealing with other general managers because the offer sheet he tended to Shea Weber.
Yeah.
So, again, I have no idea if that's accurate.
I felt like it was over the line.
But if stuff like that happens, that's the kind of thing that Jason's attesting to here. That
become non-grata.
Yeah, exactly. And to the contrary, Chuck is known for being the exact opposite of that. Yeah. Around the National Hockey League, he is known for being a man of his word. He's up front. He doesn't play games like that. So that sort of thing was not going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah, and if you would have tried to play, he needs to play those games to get a better return. But you play those games, and it's not like it comes to fruition anyway.
Right.
You just become a non-negotiable partner.
And then down the road, it hurts you too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at there.
And look, I think people, there's a 2024 first-round pick there. I don't know that they'll ever make that.
No,
pick.
they won't.
That'll be used as organizational currency. People and other general managers love first-round picks. You know why?
Yeah.
There's no money attached to them.
Yep.
It's the prospect of a good player, and we'll see. What happens with that pick. And Owen Tippett's a guy that couldn't get into that Florida lineup with consistency and have a significant role because, they got Sam Bennett from Calgary. They got Sam Reinhart from Buffalo last year and limited spots for him. But let's not act – look, he's got work to do at the NHL level, and this is opportunity for him. He's played 94 NHL games, 14 goals, 19 assists, 33 points. In the American League, where he's played a total of 63 games since being drafted in 2017, 10th overall, he's played in 63 games and he's got 60 points. So really good numbers in the American League. Now he's going to get opportunity to play up the lineup in this situation because he's not trying to crack that really good and deep Florida line.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Charlotte Checkers have been a very good organization over the past couple of years, but the whole thing has been in flux in that league, and the affiliation changed and all that. And the Charlotte travel is not ideal. We'll put it that way. There's nobody near Charlotte. So they're constantly making long trips to play multiple games and stuff like that. So he comes out of there into an environment that we see it all the time. That people are complaining about such and such a player picked up by Philadelphia, and then they get rid of him and he gets good. Well, it can go the other way around too, and I think that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and we'll get a look at him today. He's going to be playing with Morgan Frost and Oscar Lindblom. And we'll see how he fits and what he can do. Short of a hat trick today and 2 fights and a couple assists, some fans won't be happy, but that it is what it is. And, some people say, well, why make the trade if you're going to make a bad trade? And again, you got a 10th overall pick in Owen Tippett, who hasn't made his way at the NHL level yet, but again, got a point-per-game player in the AHL, and you've got a 2024 first-round pick. And some people look at it and go, well, I can't believe they gave up 3 players. Giroux, they give up German Rupsev, and they give up, help me out here, who's the other guy?
Connor Bunneman.
Oh, Connor Bunneman. Pretty forgetful. Those guys were not going to get qualifying offers from the Flyers anyway.
Right.
And they were moved to basically open up the amount of contracts that the Flyers can have so that they can get in on the college free agency. And you got a few guys that they have rights to in Noah Cates and Ronnie Attard, and obviously Bobby Brink, who led the NCAA in scoring by 13 points.
Yeah, so one of the things about an NHL team that kind of flies under the radar for a lot of people is you can only have 50 players under contract at any time, 50, and that's your roster that you play with. But that also includes anybody that you've got, in the minors who's on an NHL contract. Just because a guy plays for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms doesn't mean he's not on an NHL contract. So, I believe as of yesterday, the Flyers were at 48 contracts.
It's 47 now because Tyson Forster is with the OHL.
Okay,
that's why.
But has he signed he's still under an NHL contract. He's just been assigned to.
Yeah, so it's off for now, but when he comes back, it will.
Well, yeah, and so the point is that what this trade does for the Flyers in terms of those 2 players leaving now, as opposed to not being qualified at the end of the season, is it gives them 2 additional contracts to work with. So you can sign Bobby Brink, you can sign Ronnie Attard, you can sign whoever you're looking at, plus the college free agent route, guys that really aren't even on any of our radars yet, but the scouts are watching. You get a lot of guys that go through the draft in their draft years, 18, 19, 20. They don't get drafted. You're not eligible for the draft anymore after you turn 20. A lot of times what happens is that players go into juniors, into American juniors until they're 20, and then they come into college as a 20-year-old freshman.
Yeah.
They play college at ages 20, 21, 22, and 23, and now they're 24 years old, and they've gotten better. And so they can sign anywhere they want as a free agent. So if the Flyers have their eyes on anybody like that, that's where they would come in. And, guys that have done that in the past here include Matt Reed and Chris Vandeveld. Those are 2 names just to come to the top of my head that entered the league that way. I believe. Am I completely making this up, or did Chris Kreider do that too? There was a guy the Rangers got who was like that. So that's the flexibility they get by adding those 2 guys into the trade that were not probably part of their long-term plans anyway, and now are they can move on to other things.
Yeah, and then look, one of the other talking points that I'm seeing quite a bit is that Giroux screwed them, and because he didn't open it up to multiple teams. But that's his right when he has a no move clause. He earned that no move clause. He did his job when he was here during the term of that 8-year contract. That's his right. And Chuck Fletcher spoke earlier today and said that everything, there's no acrimony. There was no, we need you to waive it to go to other. It's his right to do what he did.
Right.
And, and I don't begrudge him for it one bit.
No.
He got his mind made up on Florida. And probably, would you go take a job in Detroit because it was better for the employer that you were with? Or would you go somewhere where you wanted to go?
Exactly. And there's when you're
Nothing against Detroit.
When you're in a situation like his, there is a material difference between Florida and Colorado. Number one is the time zone. If the family is staying here, then you're going to be 2 hours off if you go to Colorado the whole time. I don't know what the plans are, but I'm just saying that is something to consider. The other thing is the travel. Obviously Florida is not right in the middle of the NHL hotbed, but at least when Florida is traveling within its division, it stays in the Eastern time zone. Western Conference teams' travels are just awful compared to what the Flyers have to. I was complaining about travel once to the broadcasters for the Chicago Blackhawks, and halfway through it, I said, wait a minute, I need to shut up because you guys have no sympathy for me right now whatsoever, because they are constantly going in and out of time zones and taking these long plane rides, and it's crazy to your cell phone doesn't change automatically. You wake up, you don't know what time it is.
Yeah.
So those
to the Dallas.
Yeah. So those two things are considerations. Plus, I mean, I don't know. I'm far from a pro athlete, but there's the altitude thing. How long would it take him to get adjusted to playing at that altitude, night in and night out? There's lots of considerations. So he has earned the right to say, hey, I don't want to go there. I want to go here. And that's what happened. And there should be nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
If he really wanted to screw the Flyers, he could have just refused to go anywhere.
Exactly.
And so obviously that wasn't the case.
Yeah. We'll have one more thing to say about the Drew thing before we move forward. We'll take a quick timeout. We're back after this. It is the Flyers Game Day Show, getting ready for Flyers and Islanders at Wells Fargo. Back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
You're listening to the Flyers Pregame Show on the Flyers Broadcast Network.
Smith, Jason Martinez. Flyers and Islanders coming up. I just want to have my last word on the Drew thing real quick. Because
bury the hatchet.
The other part is, there's some reports that he wanted assurances that he could come back, and that was not given. I don't think that is the case, first of all. I don't think you have those conversations now. But everybody knows how I feel about him as a player. I've defended the guy for years. I've made it the hill I'm going to die on. And I think it's time to not bring him back. I think it's time to move forward and leave his career it is what it is at this point. Let it speak for itself. It's not time to bring him back in the offseason as a UFA. I think it's time to move forward with a new regime and a new identity and a new group, minus Claude Giroux.
Yeah, I can definitely see that as a route forward. I could see at some point him being like a Simone Gagne or a Mike Knuble. He goes somewhere else, spends a few years there, maybe comes back here, plays a year to retire as a Flyer. I could see that happening. Come back after some time away and come back here in a support role and a veteran role. But just from the standpoint of what do you do if you got a guy that's your longest tenured captain and he leaves for 6 weeks and then he's back again? I mean, we saw this problem 12 years ago when Mike Richards was here and he was the captain, and then the Flyers traded for Chris Pronger. And supposedly there was some conflict between a guy that had been a captain in this league for many years in other places and a guy that was a captain here for about the same amount of time. He was much, much younger. I don't feel like that's the best dynamic in the world for him to come right back. But I could definitely see him making another tour of duty here in 2 or 3 years or more down the road.
Yeah, to me, I go full Bob Seger. I go full Bob Seger, turn the page.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, let it speak for itself. It is what it is. And you turn the page. You had a great Flyer career. The team's got to move forward. And that starts, it started the other night, but it's again today against the New York Islanders here at Wells Fargo Center. Let me give you the lines for the game today. JVR, Broussard, and Atkinson are the top line. So Broussard's in the middle with JVR and Cam Atkinson. Second line, Hayes with Farabee and Konechny on the wings. That line was good the other night. That was the only line that I thought was really generating.
Yeah.
Frost centering Oscar Lindblom and the new acquisition, Owen Tippett. And then Patrick Brown with Max Willman and Zach McEwen on the fourth line. Your D pairs, again, no Justin Braun in this game. Asset management. Looks like he'll be moved. Provorov and York, your top pair. Sanheim and Ristolainen, Yandel and Sealer. And it's Carter Hart versus Ilya Sorokin.
If you could glance over here at my monitor and tell me that we have not recalled Wade Allison.
Yeah, I know.
Look at this kid.
Doppelganger.
Owen Tippett and Wade Allison need to plot out a Halloween costume or something, because my goodness, they look alike.
Somebody on Twitter put out, they do the photoshopped picture with the New Jersey on.
I saw that.
They just put a picture of Wade Allison on. I thought that was pretty funny. Whoever did that, good work.
That was well played. Yep.
Yeah, very well done. So he'll be in the lineup today, and look, we'll be watching. And he's going to be a focal point in this game today for the Flyers to see what the new acquisition can do. Former 10th overall pick, and this team could look different come post 3 o'clock on Monday. But right now, and I think that's when kind of like the anxiety or the trepidation and everything kind of settles after all the deals are done.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance a hockey deal could be done and a guy that's not on an expiring contract gets traded. I think that's more likely as an off-season thing to get more teams involved, and it's more complicated. But Chuck, last year at the trade deadline, Chuck Fletcher was pretty widely known that Chuck Fletcher talked to Nashville. He talked about it, and David Poile. Maybe it was about Matthias Ekholm. Maybe it was about Ryan Ellis, and that deal didn't come to fruition until the summer.
I would like everybody to pause for a moment and consider how the last couple of days maybe had weighed on you as you waited to see what the Flyers did with Claude Giroux, and just kind of bottle that feeling for a moment, and then realize that every time we are approaching a trade deadline, there are players who feel that exact same way.
Yeah,
some of them year to year, because even though for Flyers fans, whether or not Justin Braun leaves Philadelphia, it probably doesn't matter to them, mostly at all. But for Justin Braun, it feels the way that things have felt for everybody the last couple of days who wanted to see if Claude Giroux was going to go. So, again, it's not a thing you just write off as far as playing with it for guys like Braun, Martin Jones, Derek Brassard. The only way that you don't have to worry about it is if you control your destination, like Keith Yandel, or the way Giroux did control his destination, or things like that. That's a real thing. And after the deadline passes on Monday, you might see some people playing a little more freely.
When we change jobs, we got a couple of weeks to go there, get settled, and all that stuff. With the
we also don't have to move across the country necessarily.
Yeah,
sometimes, but not necessarily.
These guys go, you're traded, you're leaving tonight.
Yeah,
and then you're left to pick up the pieces while you're trying to be a professional hockey player. It's not easy.
Wayne Simmons left so quickly he forgot his equipment.
Yeah, so you had to drive it somewhere, didn't you?
Fly it.
Yeah.
St. Louis.
Well, your arms must have been tired.
It was a game day too. I was wrecked the rest of that
game. So it's the Flyers and the Islanders today, and we'll see Owen Tippett for the first time. But stay tuned, because Tim Saunders, and we've got the return of Steve Coates. He is off the injured reserve list, vision intact. Stay tuned. They've got the countdown to face-off and all the first period action, the debut of Owen Tippett right here on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
In a few minutes.
Flyers pregame show on the Flyers Broadcast Network. Two cellos.